This is a tutorial for a Link Kokiri sword. I'm going to use one entire piece of balsa wood. It's a very soft wood, so it's easy to cut. It's for hobbies, so I got it at my local craft store for $3.99 and actually used a coupon and got it cheaper. And here is the sticker and the dimensions. It's 1/4 by 3 by 36 inches. And I used a cardboard stencil. And then for my guard, I have a separate piece because I need to make the guard and the handle thick. I'm going to make it thicker than the actual blade. So I need to cut out some extra pieces, which I have drawn up here. And it's, like I said, barely enough for the wood just to do that. And I made the blade fairly, I guess, thin, just not very wide, because my son would like to use this old scabbard that came with this pirate sword. This sword got broken, so we're going to try that. Let's see, I wrote the dimensions of what I did. Let's see, the handle is 4.5 inches, the guard is 3 inches, and the blade is 11 inches. And there's an extra 1/2 inch where the guard kind of goes down and the blade is long. And so the entire length is 18 inches altogether. So next I'm going to cut it out and sandwich the pieces together. Okay, I have all my pieces cut out. I'm just going to lay them out. I put these pieces at the top just to stabilize the blade. So I just need to stack them all together. Make sure it's all lined up right. And then I needed these 2 little pieces to fill in that area. So I'm just piecing them together. Now make sure they're all lined up correctly. And then I will use my wood glue to glue it all together and to also fill in any little cracks. So like here, there'll be some cracked areas, and then also when you're cutting against the grain, sometimes, let's see if I can find, oh, there you can see at the top, it kind of leaves some little holes, so the wood glue will fill that in together. So when I have it all glued together and it has dried, I'm going to sand it so it looks more like one piece. Here's my progress on my sword. I've been using a Dremel tool to sand all the pieces, and I've been trying to create more of a rounded effect down at the handle. So I'm going to keep working on that. And then up here on the blade, I've just been using an X-Acto knife to cut everything out, and then I'm going to just kind of work with it like this to shave. To shave this area like this, just to give it a sharpened blade effect. Here's the progress on my sword. I have all the pieces glued together and I've sanded them all down to try to look like one piece. So this is what it looks like, and then I've rounded the edges on the handle, rounded the end. And then I also have coated the whole entire thing with wood glue to make it stronger. So on this side I've done 2 coats, and then I still have 1 coat left to do. And just use the wood glue, and what I do is I just squirt it directly on there, about that much. And I just take a paintbrush and I work with the wood grain, and I just keep painting it and just make a thin coat. So just do good coverage just on the whole entire thing, the whole surface. Then after that, and the wood glue, I believe it has kind of like some powder residue of wood. That's what makes it a good bond. So it does feel kind of grainy after it dries. So then you just go over, do a light sand. Here's just some fine grit sandpaper, And you just sand it until it's smooth, just smooth to touch. I don't want to take too much of the wood glue off of it. And then after that point, I'll be ready to paint. And I did let the glue set for a whole day before I put the second coat. And that's what it says before you sand and paint or primer, to give it a day. So I did a day in between the two coats, and then another day before I sand it and paint it. I've painted my sword, and all I have left to do is to add the jewel. I was fortunate enough to have all the products on hand that I used to paint the sword. I'm sure other products will work just as well, but this is what I used. I'm going to use my hot glue gun to put the jewel on, and I've just have done a test on. I was poking at it with my nail to see it doesn't really stay really stiff, so I'll probably coat that after with either the polyurethane or some Mod Podge or both. And I just did a freehand of what the shape I was going for. So the jewel would go in the middle. This obviously is not big enough, and what I decided to do is just to use a pencil to sketch out a design here. Let me grab my jewel, and that will go in the middle like that. So what I did is I put my jewel there. I would have liked to have a square, but I had a round one, so that's what I'm going to go with. But I did kind of make a triangular shape there. So I'll use the hot glue, try to fill in that area that I drew out, and then I will use a gold Sharpie to carefully just to color in the hot glue with that. I didn't actually have red jewel, so what I did is I used another Sharpie. I love the Sharpies. I used a red Sharpie. I had a lot of clear jewels, and I used the Sharpie to color that in. It's not really focusing that great, but I think it came out pretty nice, so I'm happy with it. To make the wood color, or well, the darker wood, I should say, this is the original color of the wood that I used. Well, actually, this is the color before I coated it with the wood glue. This is what it looks like after. And then I used a combination of some wood stain pens. It works a little bit different since I have the wood glue as a coating over the whole sword. So instead of putting the stain on and wiping it off, I'm just using the wood pen as just another type of pen, like a Sharpie would work. It just soaks right in. It doesn't really wipe off. So this came in a kit. I don't know the name of it, but this is all of the contents of the kit. It came with a light wood pen and a dark wood pen. So I used the dark wood for this section, and then a couple little accent lines along the handle just to add some different colors. But I used the light wood for the stripes right here. So this side I coated with some polyurethane, and like I said, this is what I had on hand. So that gave it more of a shiny look. So then I will go ahead and do this one when I'm finished. But you could kind of tell it's shiny. And then I had already had this spray paint in this particular metal. And like I said, I'm sure another one would work just fine. That is what I used. So I'm going to go ahead and do the jewel next, and then I will have my finished product to show. My Kokiri sword is now complete. I filled in the little triangle area with the hot glue. It's not perfect. It's a little hard to work with hot glue without getting it real stringy and messed up, but I think it's okay. I coated this area, the jewel and the hot glue, with Mod Podge. I just did one coat, and then the whole entire sword with the polyurethane. So there it is, all finished. And then I also went over my scabbard with the blue Sharpie and a coat of Mod Podge. And My sword just fits right in there. And there it is. Thank you for watching.